Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan Marcotte. I'm with the Grand Farm team, and I work as their startup coordinator. So I'm really excited for the opportunities that we have. If there's any collaboration between what Plug and Play is doing and what we're doing over at Grand Farm. And I know Andrew Jason will explain a lot more about what Grand Farm is and kind of some potential opportunities for collaboration. But I'll kick it over to William to introduce himself as well.
All right, can you hear me now? All right, this is William Adderholt. I'm the Grand Farms program manager, and in that, I oversee our signature initiatives at the Grand Farm and the projects that go with them. The Grand Farm, you'll hear a lot about it, but what we try and do is we try and organize demonstrations, research, and collaborative projects out on the Grand Farm between partners. And since we're a nonprofit, what allows it to do is we can use our capabilities to very quickly make things happen, partnerships, collaborations, projects, demonstrations, and fulfill the mission of what we're trying to accomplish.
Perfect. And I saw Andrew just hopped on. Andrew, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Andrew Jason. I am the ecosystems director here, and like I'm sure William probably mentioned that, Grand Farm really about building out this global ecosystem that's centered all around ag innovation. So, kind of what that means on a day-to-day basis is we do a lot of events. We like to bring people together and celebrate the work that's being done. So I think we'll probably get into this here in a bit, but I always say that Grand Farm's 3 value props that we bring is connections. So we want to create the space to bring people together. So that's whether it's through our weekly happy hour, which I know Sarah's a big fan of, or our larger scale conferences like our Space Agriculture Conference here in a couple of weeks. Then the second is facilitation. So we want to identify the large scale problems that are facing the industry. So we work with growers to identify their pain points. Then we bring this ecosystem together to create energy and help solve those pain points. And finally, the third is amplification. So that's getting people up on the stage, celebrating the work that they're doing, but then also really creating some energy and hopefully attraction around that. Hey, agriculture is really cool right now. It's a great industry to be in, and let's drive some energy around that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those introductions, Andrew, and just for your knowledge. We have 2 special guests today here. So we have Netta Amidi, our president of Plug and Play, and then Saeed is actually joining us today. Just got back from the yacht and vacation, and so he's our CEO. So we're super excited to have them joining us today. But if you guys, we're excited to have you all join us. Thank you for taking time to be here. We're thrilled to have the Grand Farm team here. They do so much for the ecosystem in North Dakota, and we work very closely with them and the great team. So if you guys wanted to kick it off with your presentation, and then I just ask everybody, if you're not presenting, to just shut your camera off and mute yourself just during the presentation, and then we'll jump into a Q&A portion for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just share my screen here. And so, one second, maybe it'll load. We good? Can you see that, Sarah?
Yep, we're good.
This sounds good. So like I touched on, Grand Farm is a nonprofit based here in Fargo, North Dakota, focused on the future of ag and AgTech. And our unofficial model is innovation through collaboration. So a little bit about the history of it. So Grand Farm was born out of our parent nonprofit called Emerging Prairie, which has historically existed to connect and celebrate entrepreneurs. And Grand Farm really was the brainchild of one of these entrepreneurs. So this is Barry Batchelor. He was the founder of Apario, and he was involved with Steiger Tractor. He helped put the first computer chip in a tractor, eventually got bought out by John Deere. And he gave a talk at one of our events saying, what's Fargo's major? What can we be the best in the world at? And it didn't take long for us to look out and see the cornfields and the fields all around us to realize that we have been a leader in agriculture for the last 150 years. So as you talk about the bonanza farms of the 1800s, sorry, Nathan and I are doing a little swapping around here. But if you look at the bonanza farms of the late 1800s, 100,000 acre farms, that was based in here. And then Bobcat was founded here. And there's just a long standing history of innovation that exists here. So that's what, from there, we kind of do what we do best. We brought the community together and say, hey, what could Grand Farm be? What's the potential about this? And then fast forward about a year, this is Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft. He spoke at our TEDx Fargo about the opportunities that exist for rural America through technology. And when we coupled these two kind of presentations together, that's where Grand Farm was really birthed. So, we originally launched actually as we're going to be the first fully autonomous farm. That was the initial kind of vision statement. And we realized that was very short-lived. And quite honestly, growers, we got a lot of pushback from growers. Growers didn't think that they don't want a fully autonomous farm. They still want to be out on in the field working at the farm. So that's when we really kind of centered on this idea of building out this global ecosystem and identifying that. So we officially launched in April 2019 when we had the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, out the farm. We had our senators, our governor here. And then we got the validation that we need in October 2019 when Microsoft pledged $1.5 million to support and accelerate Grand Farm initiative through their philanthropic arm, TechSpark. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Microsoft's second largest campus is actually in Fargo here. So our governor, Doug Burgum, he founded a software company and that got bought out by Microsoft in 2000 for about $1 billion. So what is Grand Farm? So we're really built around solving the big problems that exist in agriculture that we all know about, right? The growing population, 10 billion people by 2050. The agricultural labor shortage that exists. We talk to pretty much any ag company here, any farmer, they're always short-staffed. The labor pool is weak. The workforce just isn't there. Third is a lack of venture capital. So no offense, Saeed, but all of the Midwest has historically been overlooked when it comes to capital. And so we really want to kind of grow from the grain belt here. The fourth is the skills gap. So we know that across, all jobs, that jobs of tomorrow are going to be high tech. However, in agriculture, that's especially true, whether it's from on the farm to in the ag tech industry. And then the fifth is the safety component of it. Still considered one of the most dangerous jobs that exist out there. So from those challenges, that's when we really built out our strategy. At the heart of this is, again, this global ecosystem around innovation in agriculture. We have our Grand Farm test site. So that is 145 acres that we're doing a number of tech projects and events on, and really kind of bringing these people together to work on that. We'll dive into that in a little bit more. Then the third is our Emerging Digital Academy. So this is a 20-week coding boot camp that we launched to fill the software jobs that exist in the ag tech industry. So, anytime we talk with an ag tech company out of the Valley or Bay Area, they always talk about what I can get a software developer that has a agriculture background for $50,000. That's really, we want to grow the tech community here and fill these ag tech jobs that exist. The fourth is really our innovation platform, which we're on the call with right now, Plug and Play. So we were super excited to help recruit them to come and open up an office here in Fargo. And then finally, the fifth is the policy piece. So really at the end of the day, we're about connections and matchmakers. So we want to create those public and private partnerships to encourage innovation. So what is this all leading to? So this is it. So our goal is to really create a Epcot Center model around agriculture. So as we think about the experimental prototype community tomorrow, we want to create the experimental prototype farm of tomorrow. So we're currently working with our community to identify the permanent site of Grand Farm, and then we're going to build out the campus. So this will range from big meeting spaces to greenhouses, makerspace, incubators, test plots, things like that. All are meant to really just engage the community. And I think a piece that I always touch on is that Grand Farm is, we don't want to believe that Grand Farm is just a Fargo story. So we believe that this can help solve global problems, but happens to be based in Fargo. So as we talk about what is the future of Grand Farm hold, we believe that Grand Farm HQ is going to be in Fargo. However, we can look at Grand Farm Brazil, Grand Farm Australia to help solve the regional problems that exist there. So our milestones are pretty simple. We're really focused on 3. Right now, primarily, a lot of the work being done is North American row crops, helping solve the pain points and problems that our growers are facing here. However, we recognize that the technology and innovation that's happening with North American crops has implications on a global scale. So really thinking about that. And then finally, a low and zero gravity. So we know that the movie The Martian is going to be a reality someday. So how can we start thinking about that and accelerating the work that NASA, SpaceX, other organizations are doing? So to dive a little bit more into kind of the Emerging Digital Academy. So like I said, this is a 20-week course that teaches not just the concepts of coding and software, but really how to use those software tools to build web apps. So we've seen a lot of success here. I think the biggest piece that we're the most proud of is that the average salary coming in is $22,000. The average salary after the EDA is $52,000, which is a good living here in Fargo. So we're really kind of bullish on this. And so I would say that if any of you are looking for any good software talent that from an entry-level junior perspective, really think about Emerging Digital Academy. So this can be either it's internships, contract work, whatever the case might be, this is available. Innovation platform. I don't really have to touch on this because you guys are all living this right now, but we're so excited to be working with Plug and Play to bring in this ecosystem, get you guys involved in Grand Farm. Hopefully we'll be able to get you speaking opportunities out to the farm for events, get you involved in projects out at the farm. I'm going to skip over this one. And
I am back online.
Perfect, William.
Yeah, let me roll my window here.
We're getting a lot of background noise, William, if you want to mute yourself.
Yep, I was just going to say I'm back.
Sounds good. So then to briefly touch on our program. So really kind of the heart of what we're doing this year, we're doing a lot of events. We're doing a lot of projects. So these events range from a weekly happy hour that's meant to bring together this innovation community, just to create conversation, to some kind of other regular occurring ones. So field days, these are meant to showcase our partners and the work that they're doing out at the farm. Our innovation days, that's really just to celebrate an innovation in all form that's happening. So here in a couple of weeks, we're doing an innovation day on Farm of the Future design. So bringing in thought leaders to think about 50 years from now, what is that farm actually going to physically look like, and how can we start preparing for that? And then maybe the most important one is this winter, we'll be doing a lot of grower roundtables. So we'll be going across North Dakota and Minnesota, sitting down with growers in the local cafes and bars, listening to them about what pain points exist for them. And so these are all kind of weekly, monthly series that we have, and then we have a couple of larger scale events that we have. So Cultivate, which is meant to connect the AgTech industry with the growers. That was last month. We had 200 people in person out at the farm. We had several hundred online, just kind of talking about what is happening in the AgTech space, what innovations occurring. in 2 weeks, so on Thursday, August 19th, we're actually doing a space agriculture conference. So in reality, when we started talking about what does space agriculture look like, we were like, we're not going to deal with that for another 10 years or so. But then we started to talk with NASA, some SpaceX, Starlink folks, and see the amount of excitement and energy that's being driven around there, and also money. So NASA, through their SBIR program, has $200 million that's available for small businesses to work with NASA on the pain points that they're working on. So that's going to be a large piece of the conference. So if you're interested in any of that, you can sign up. It's going to be in person and will be virtual. And there will be some kind of SBR programs if you're interested in working with the NASA contingency. And then finally, the third one is Autonomous Nation, which is about connecting the autonomous industry with policymakers to really push forward autonomy. And maybe William, if you want to touch on our projects, you're still there.
Yeah, I can do that. William Adderall again. Like I said, I oversee a lot of the projects that happen on the Grand Farm, and they really happen through the ecosystem connections Andrew fills or creates. When we think about projects on the Grand Farm, one of the privileges we have is we get to talk to people all day about the technology they're doing. We're a neutral platform, so they're really open about what they're accomplishing, so that we can better understand what's happening in AgTech. Agriculture technology is a very ambitious bear of multidisciplinary functions, and we've identified 12 unique technology sectors that are emerging within AgTech that people are really interested about. Across all those sectors, Grand Farm has projects, and those sectors can include everything from sensing to IoT. It can include connectivity and edge computing. It can include cloud computing, satellite technologies, inputs like biologics, and pieces like that. The Grand Farm right now has 300 projects happening on it. But probably what we're most excited about is our signature initiatives and projects that we have happening. And I think if you're working in AgTech, carbon's a big deal. And so we have a signature project around that. We have a signature project around traceability and supply chain, and the data supply chain, and how inputs move all the way through to crops, to commodities, to the consumer, how those are tracked. And then a project called Farm Grid that really takes all the things that are being developed and identifies how we can create agnostic systems so startups can win in this space, really thinking about how the backend can be developed. So when we think about projects, even if it's something that you just want to put out on the Grand Farm to demonstrate and see if it can add value, if you want to test it in our environment, we are working right now. We have established relationships with North Dakota State University, where once projects happen on the Grand Farm, we get you connected with researchers, and they can then be pushed out to the ag experiment stations throughout North Dakota. And we are this year starting to focus on agriculture, or our agriculture producers, and how to use their land to also gain access to that and provide innovators with feedback on the technology producing, so they can understand where their fit within the market is and how they can take products from okay or good to great, and really find their market place and their share within that.
Awesome. Thanks, William. So where do growers kind of fit into this whole thing, of this whole piece of Grand Farm? So we really want to work with growers to put them at the center of all this. And we kind of have a 3-tier strategy with them. So we want to work with them on the identification. So we want to source the pain points that they're facing and identify the real problems that they face every day out in their operations. Then the second is input. So, we know that anytime we talk to growers, one of the pieces that we hear the most is that they feel like they are not being listened to by industry. So we want to create that two-way conversation. And if a company wants connections with growers here in our region, we'll put them in direct contact, and you can work directly with growers and get that real-time feedback. And then third is the appreciation. So we know that growers have a demanding and an important job. So we want to celebrate the work they're doing. But also tied into that is the education. So we want to create excitement that agriculture is an important area to be in. So we know that there's fewer and fewer farm kids that exist, that are going to exist as the farms get larger, people have fewer kids. But how can we still create that excitement around agriculture? And that's really what we want to do. And maybe Nathan, you want to touch a little bit on our partnerships and really our ground here partnerships and how startups can engage.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the work that we do at Grand Farm really focuses around the collaboration of different partners, and that can be anything from larger companies all the way to startups. And that's what we're really excited about, is the opportunity to work with startups to test out technology on the farm, since we are a neutral platform. It also helps create good awareness for different growers and other industry members who visit our test site. But as part of that, we have a partnership model, and it goes ground, green, gold, sky. And at our ground tier partnership, this is a free partnership that we offer to startups and nonprofits. And we would invite all of you to get connected with us to learn more about that as well. But really, it's a free partnership that we offer to help encourage engagement through different projects out on the farm or speaking events. I know right now out on the farm we have Spornado units. It's a sensor that was a previous member of a plug and play cohort. So we're really excited about the collaboration that can happen between all of you and Grand Farm. So if you're interested, I'll drop my email in the chat and we can connect to talk more about the ground tier partnership.
Awesome, thanks, Nathan. So, this is an outdated slide at this point, but we're really excited about the partners that we're gaining, both formally and informally through our ground tier partners and the likes. So the other piece that we're really excited about is building out our board. So our board chair is the Mike Durham. He was the founder of Code Prime Digital Academy based in Minneapolis, or a huge coding school down there. We have Mark Watney, who is the president of the North Dakota Farmers Union. He represents 30,000 farmers. Jay Schuler has been involved in a number of agriculture startups and corporations. He's founded Taya with Microsoft, and then Cindy Schreiber-Beck with a North Dakota State Representative. And then the team, which you're looking at us, we're really excited to continue to build this out. And with that, I will stop sharing and stop talking so we can open up for questions. Sarah, it looks like you're on mute. And we do have a rule here, Sarah. If you start talking while you're on mute, you have to sing your high school fight song. So if you could do that, Sarah, that'd be great.
I don't know if I remember what it is. I am. But thank you so much, Andrew and team, for sharing about the Grand Farm. It's such a good benefit and such an good addition to the North Dakota ecosystem here, and working with Plug and Play too. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to just ask them. Just be mindful of everybody else online as well. Oh, Saeed, it looks like you're first.
Yeah, I have to leave in 10 minutes. First of all, thank you so much for including us in this. And, when I heard you talk about your, the pain point for the agricultural industry, like traceability and safety, I like to share with everybody, like in mobility practice we have in Stuttgart, we did 300 startups doing 150 pilots, and 50 of them have been implemented. So I think, with John Deere or Caterpillar, or especially the equipment suppliers, we could bring in a lot of know-how from the auto industry to it. And especially about traceability or safety, we have been working 3 years with Lloyd's of London for safety on the ships, mostly in the ocean. And, if they can eliminate one death, they said it's worth $20 million for them. So the only comment I have is, first, congratulations. I think you are doing an incredible job building the community locally and globally, and we love to participate any way we can. And then I think we could add some value from our other verticals to Grand Farm and what you've been doing. So it's really pleasure to hear your presentation.
Yeah, that's great. And I love hearing that, Saeed. It's been a great relationship. And, one thing I will say is that we have this Autonomous Nation conference coming up. We're working with our senators to engage U.S. Secretary of Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, to come here. So, if there's any collaboration or, ways that we could work together on that one to create some excitement, that would be great. So.
How can we get started on looking into the partnership with Grand Farm?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nathan's your man right there. So Nathan can set you guys up, get you officially locked in as a kind of ground tier partnership. Again, it's free. We want to just get you involved, kind of start working with you. And then the two easiest ways that we look at getting kind of your entry points is through the events or through the project. So I think, when you work with Nathan, he'll kind of identify opportunities, whether you can tie in directly with one of our events, or if there's a project that works. So, if you have like a sensor company, like we can get you involved really easy. Get the sensors out at the farm now. If you're a biologics company, well, let's start planning for 2022, and we're happy to work with you on that.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that my name is Ravinder Kaul and I'm with Vegamax.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Mr. Bender?
Yep.
Does anyone else have a question for the Grand Farm team?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Mauricio Avila with NRU. In this effort, what's the split between sort of greenhouse in like containerized and indoor type of agriculture versus field agriculture? How are those areas split? I say it because I feel that the future of food production for people is in greenhouses and controlled environments, and most of the row crops that we have are for feeding animals. So I'm wondering how Grand Farm is trying to fit that in.
Yeah, so Grand Farm really started as a row crop focused initiative because that's what we have local to us. It made it really easy to get the capabilities out there. Indoor agriculture, urban farming, vertical farming are things that are high on our radar and on our path forward. I don't know, there's been several opportunities. One of the tribes in North Dakota is building a indoor agriculture operation for football stadiums in size, for instance. And so I don't know if that would happen at the innovation site, but we do have access to North Dakota State University's greenhouses right now. But we are looking for some of those larger scale operations. I have also talked to some of the rural communities around here about repurposing their shops and such that are empty to look at indoor agriculture to produce nutritious food in those rural communities. So it's closer to their grocery stores, closer to their operations, and hopefully just making it easier to get that food into the supply chain where it's needed. I also think that's a huge area in terms of urban agriculture as well. So what I would say is we're thinking about it. If you are working in urban agriculture or indoor or vertical agriculture, we do have several partners like Black and Veatch that we work with regularly that we could connect you to, and we could probably get something set up at North Dakota State University.
Okay. Yeah, we're NRU is working on development of fertilizers from recovered nutrients from wastewater streams, and so we're not directly connected to that whole world, but we started working on fertilizers for indoor gardening and some of these some of more of the house and gardening type of stuff, but the control environment agriculture is an interesting one to us on two fronts. One is that they need to recycle a lot of nutrients when they do nutrient solutions, and the other one is that for some operations, the solid fertilizers that we produce or liquid fertilizers that we're looking at potentially producing might be suitable for them too. So that's how we're sort of thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Mauricio.
Yeah, thanks.
Apologies, I did have my phone decide that it didn't want to be on the call anymore, so I'm back.
I have a follow-up question. I'm Nahan Toronto, also from NRU. And I'm wondering how, like, if you participate on projects, how you guys work out funding. And I think you mentioned that some projects are free or something like that, but I just want to kind of understand how you guys work with startups.
So right now, just in terms of the project and where we're at in our own growth, we aren't able to financially support development on the Grand Farm. All the projects have been self-funded by organizations as they look to develop out their own space within the market, demonstrate their product, things like that. We are looking at models going into 22 with working with corporations that could potentially provide some seed funding to get projects out on the Grand Farm, as well as with some grant programs as well that would allow us to do that. As a nonprofit and us trying to figure out what value we add to the environment, it just hasn't been something that has emerged quite yet into our business model, but it's something that is on our radar. What we were talking about before in terms of the free piece was we have multiple tiers of partners, from ground tier, which is, you know, when you think about the soil, green tier, the stem, and gold tier, you know, the grain head, and then sky tier. So when we work with startups, we provide them a free partner, early stage startups. We provide them with a free partnership that allows them to get engaged, have access to regular communication, and be involved with everything that's going on in the Grand Farm. And that's what he was discussing earlier.
Thank you.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, Vivek, go for it.
Yeah, hi, this is Vivek. I'm from Vegamex. You know, we have an international orientation to the company and significant presence with the farmer cooperatives and farmer networks in India, for example, and also parts of East Africa. And given your stated objective of forging relationships on an international basis, I wanted some thoughts and feedback on working with very different agroclimatic zones. And if so, what could be the nature of relationships? Could we conduct cross-fertilize ideas and analytics and perform experiments in different zones, so on and so forth? Thanks.
Yeah, you hit on a really important topic, which is we're kind of being in a North Dakota agriculture operation. We only have North Dakota soil, North Dakota farming practice, North Dakota crops. And so that is something that we are looking at pretty actively right now. We've had some interest from multiple countries from around the world, as well as different states within the United States, to create partnerships or franchising the Grand Farm in a way that would allow it to spread out. We are very open to anybody who's working in this space to really just form partnerships. We engage our ecosystem wherever it's valuable. And so, when we talk about partners, that's really just this call to if I've got someone who's calling me from Africa saying they'd like to know about some sensor companies that might be applicable, I can really quickly engage them with the sensor companies that we've worked with and have talked to figure out what value they can add. Grand Farm right now isn't ready to spread itself out, but we are very open to if there's innovation sites over in other countries, working with them in collaboration to figure out, like you said, cross-fertilize the ecosystem wherever we can. And we are working on an innovation hub in the United States right now. And that's just because most of the people we were working on were in the United States. But we'd like to see that go global.
Sure, very good, thanks.
And just for reference, as Andrew dove into that, I mean, this is where we learn, right? We're a 2-year-old nonprofit focused on this. I think we've grown substantially, but there's a lot of gaps. Indoor agriculture, international agriculture, those are things that are very important. We find them very important, and are finding ways to continue to grow our platform, and feedback helps us grow with that as well.
No, this makes sense because, we ourselves are positioning as, a company which is bridging different, agricultural zones, Africa, India, US, then next it could be Brazil. So this could be a pretty productive relationship.
And so just remind me, since I'm on the phone, so what organization are you with within this platform?
Yeah, this is Vega MX.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Got the next question.
Okay.
Otherwise, can you guys talk about maybe how you determine what projects you're doing? I'm sure you guys have a plethora of requests and asks to do them on the Grand Farm, and how do you filter through and decide which ones you're going to start with?
Well, that's our secret. At this point, we haven't hit a capacity issue in terms of land, crops, and getting things out. One of the things with working with AgTech is that a majority of technologies coming out and emerging are things that overlay on top of already existing crops. It's not like you need specific pieces of land to do a project. Now that changes if you're looking at research grade applications and trying to find value in terms of, what is my product actually doing? I think Andrew said it really well earlier. If you're a biologics company, I can't just put you out on the Grand Farm today. It's unrealistic, because what you're looking for is your own piece of land, a crop that you can apply your application to, and then seeing how it impacts that crop over time, or demonstrating that. For us, it's really easy to get involved through this neutral platform, though. And so as we hit capacity issues, what we're looking to doing is, like I said, work with the research extension centers and get access to grow our land to make it so that projects can exist beyond the Grand Farm. We don't really see the Grand Farm as a geographical place, for instance. So while we have the innovation site, a Grand Farm project could happen anywhere. If it's something that we're assisting with enabling, we would probably name that a Grand Farm project. So if we connected a few people, maybe they did it down in Nebraska, we got to talk about it, we amplified it over social media, and had a conference presentation about it, that really becomes part of our ecosystem. It becomes part of the energy that we're trying to create. And so I don't think everything that happens on the Grand Farm has to happen on the innovation site. We just want to see AgTech be successful. We want to see producers get their pain points solved. We want to see agriculture progress at a steady rate, so that we can feed the growing population and solve many of the pain points that the larger global pain points that Andrew highlighted during the presentation. In terms of prioritization and things that we highlight, though, if you can articulate how this fits into a producer's operation, that makes it a lot easier for us to tell the story. I think there's been a lot of startups that I've worked with. I think we've probably met with over 100 this year in total. But in looking at kind of the stories we tell, it's the ones that everyone can connect to, not just the startups, but industry and the producers, and making sure that farmers find value in what's happening. And so the more we know about what you're doing, its impacts, and what you're trying, and really how you're growing, that's where we can tell better stories about what's happening, get articles put into publications, talk about them in the projects, and really put a lot more effort behind what's happening.
Yeah, to that point, I would say one of the value props that Grand Farm has is that we can move quick. We're a startup ourselves here, so we're not weighed down by bureaucracy. We don't have kind of university hierarchy to go through. If you come to us with a good enough of an idea, we'll work with you. We're very open. I don't know if we've said no to a project yet.
No. Yeah, we have not turned something down. The only thing we've had to do is delay because it was like a biologic company.
That's great news already, though.
Yeah. My name is Miriam. I'm currently intern at Plug and Play. I'm so sorry. I'm in a coffee shop right now, so it's kind of loud. So I just know that you guys kind of touch base a little, on the projects that you guys have so far in 2021. and much of that I deal with autonomous vehicle, and that's really interesting. So I just wanted to know about like what's currently available in the market, and then what can our startup get more involved into those projects.
To rephrase your question, just so I have clarification, it's what currently available autonomous vehicles are in the market?
Yeah.
Probably the best things we've seen are adaptions from other companies, and Andrew, you can definitely fill in here. There are some things that have shown promise. I know Amity Technology has developed autonomous carts for collection of commodities off the combines. We have also seen, DOT emerge through that was acquired by Raven, which was acquired by Case New Holland. So those are examples of like some of the technology that's currently something you can go and purchase. However, I don't think we're going to see autonomous. I mean, Monarch has an autonomous tractor. I think they're pretty well known at this point, but they're focused on specialty crops and small growing operations versus large scale production agriculture. So when we talk to producers, they're actually concerned about autonomous combines and tractors moving too quickly at large scale, because they don't want to risk their operation and that expensive an asset to a computer quite yet. I think the timeline that we'll see some of these things emerge and actually be uptook by the farmers is probably 20 to 30 years out. I know that seems like that's pretty down in terms of what's happening, but that's just the feedback we've gotten from producers and through the many conversations we've had with larger equipment manufacturers.
Yeah, and I think, probably a lot of you know this, but, it's so interesting how much energy that's being drawn around autonomy right now. Like, autonomous tractors have been around for decades. So I think that, John Deere obviously has a ton. So I think where you're going to be seeing more of these autonomous systems too is in things like EarthSense, which is a small autonomous drone that drives in between rows of crops and measures kind of the health of the crop there. And then, drone technology is obviously really increased. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more energy around there. And then finally, I think you're going to be seeing some more energy from some of the other players that are kind of in this autonomy space, recognizing the opportunities that exist from like autonomous trucking. So we're working with one organization to bring autonomous lead follow vehicles into sugar beet harvest. Since it's such a tight season, you have a very limited window to get the crops from the field to the processor.
And just to build on what Andrew was talking about, I think a lot of people have heard about John Deere's auto steer, and many tractors have similar functions. We are currently actually in the middle of sourcing autonomous mowers for North Dakota Department of Transportation, where we're working with companies to identify autonomous mowers. Most of the autonomous equipment available right now is focused on accomplishing simple tasks on the farm, like weeding or mowing, things like that. Where modular chassis are kind of emerging that are really exciting for a lot of people. But those are really like task-oriented devices rather than, full-scale production without, and also they exist. Those are the ones that exist further on the autonomy scale versus like tractors and combines for large-scale production, which are still, you still have to have an operator in the cab for the most part.
One quick question about this discussion. I see that there's a whole new era of electric trucks that are coming out, and a lot of them are talking about autonomy. And I'm thinking that if you have an operator at a farm on a combine, well, the combine is a $500,000 piece of equipment or $300,000. Pickup truck that is gonna haul a trailer is a $60,000-$70,000 piece of equipment, and they both have operators. So I'm wondering, what do you see happening with all the pickup truck applications that the farms have, hauling trailers, hauling different things, and is autonomy a window there for people to to improve how they do their operations and still save costs, because I think that the drivers in the farms are a big cost. What do you see on that front?
I think a pickup truck is going to be a lot more manageable to make autonomous, at like full scale autonomy, higher on the spectrum than tractor or combine. But you're hitting on that piece where we've seen grain carts emerge that are autonomous, things like that, where if they're usually like performing a subsection of tasks, it's more realistic to program for that. If it's something where they need to have high precision or they're high value, that's where we're not seeing them emerge as quickly, during our conversations at least. I would say that pickup trucks aren't too far out there. I mean, we're seeing Tesla emerge with some of its autonomous driving. Multiple car industries are doing that. Electric vehicles, like you mentioned, are becoming more and more of a talking point. We are looking at hydrogen energy. We're looking at electric grids on the farms, microgrids, how those can contribute, agrivoltaics. And so, I think what you hit on is very important, where the idea, I think, in terms of workforce supplementation on the farm through this equipment and AgTech is going to be focused on those smaller tasks that currently a human has to be involved with, but it might not be super complex.
Yeah, I'll just echo William's point about workforce. I mean, every year it just gets harder and harder for the farmers. We have sugar beets are a big one here. You get 10 days to get the beets from the field to the piler, and it's just a hell of a time to attract the drivers for the trucks. And then the other piece that I would say is price. So being a grower is a multi-million-dollar industry. So I think, you're all in this space here, so how innovation is hard. If growers have to pay for it, you got to really make a strong case for a clear ROI on why it's worth the investment. I know Sarah's husband is a grower, and I'm sure he's here countless sales pitch where he says, "What's the ROI?"
Yep, definitely. I would certainly echo that. They only have 40 growing seasons in a lifetime. Trial and error is not a luxury that they have. So, ensuring that it's a positive, it's a sure thing, is really important when proposing to the growers.
Yeah,
Reliability becomes a big piece as well. In that conversation is, software breaks. My wife works for John Deere. She's an engineer for John Deere. She works on stuff all the time, trying to make it not break. And the reality is, with these more complex systems, it's easier for something to not work when you need it to. And that's really one of the bigger concerns that we hear from producers is, if I take on this equipment, it needs to have the ROI, but it also needs to work when I want it to work. And I need to be able to fix it in a timely manner. I think that we're seeing a lot in terms of right to service. I don't know where I really stand on that, but at the same time, we need to be able to, people need to be able to fix their equipment fast, whether that's through a technician or through themselves, so that they can get back in the field.
Right. I have a comment and a question on that. So, we are also working on predictive maintenance solutions for industrial applications. And connected to what you said, would there be application for this in the market, right? I mean, if you can predict in advance the breakdown of the machinery using AI machine learning. Yeah, thanks.
I think many of these equipment manufacturers would love that. Anything you can do, and I'm guessing through like RMA processes, receiving products back and understanding where the problem occurred and being able to predict that out through AI machine learning is key. I think in terms of agriculture operations, knowing if something's is likely to break before it breaks helps you mitigate risk in terms of those shortened seasons that we're talking about. 2 years ago, Andrew mentioned the 10 days that sugar beet growers have. 2 years ago, they had 2 days. And so if a truck didn't work, if the combine didn't work, if the piler was broken down, you run into massive issues. I mean, we had corn in the field all the way till March last year from the year before because no one could get it off the fields.
Fantastic. So is it possible for us to access this data? I mean, it could be just, an old-fashioned, barter system where we say, okay, give us the data and we'll play with it and we'll give you some analysis, So data access is very critical in this game. It's all about data.
I think the best thing we could do is connect you to some of our equipment manufacturer partners.
Fantastic.
And see if that would be something that they would be interested in. Equipment manufacturers are probably the harder thing for us to tap into because of the larger corporate giants that most people hear about.
And it may not be in their interest to do maintenance beyond a point, because that's a key source of money, I mean, of financing.
But it could, I mean,
yeah.
But I would say that if you could, if I'm going to use John Deere because they're local to us. If John Deere could predict that a failure is going to happen and notify the farmer that, hey, you might want to have a technician out because we're seeing this piece or this software or hardware is going to fail before your peak season, that could be a huge business opportunity for them. I think that could be a huge piece that, I mean, if a startup was looking to collaborate in that way, I can imagine.
Yeah, because we are very quite well advanced in this game, and we'll be very happy to speak with prospects on this front.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Vivek. We're going to have time for one more question. Chris, I know that you had a question, so if you wanted to go for it.
Yeah, not so much a question as much as a comment. I mean, I love this program, especially with the grower in the middle. I mean, that's where Agrellis is the company I represent, and I know Evan's on the line here too. So we're pretty excited about, I think, getting back to Nathan and William and Andrew, because there are a lot of things that we would love to put in front of you and help accelerate, because our marketplace is really about the grower. And so getting that high value back to the grower through the retailer, the local community retailer system is really key. So thank you guys.
That's awesome to hear. I would say, I mentioned it earlier, but the projects that are easiest to amplify are those that worked with producers. When an innovator takes a step back and actually starts working to co-create with the producer in mind, I've seen those technologies advance much faster and make much easier cases to sell in terms of like working with some of the larger partners, because there's a story behind it. There's a reason why your technology became what it is. You have the trust of the grower behind you. And the other piece is that it allows you to develop out a market niche and a market share that might not have been evident before. I don't know if Hassan is on the line, but I would say I think SoilTech Wireless is part of this cohort. And I think what they did in terms of their technology, I know them very well at this point, was perfect. They worked with growers to produce something, and now they've got a market share in an area that probably would have been harder to break into if they hadn't worked with producers.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. We're going to wrap up here. To everybody that attended, thank you, Netta, so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure to have you. And then all the companies that are here. The Grand Farm is doing such great things, and it's a great team here. So I will send out their contact information too, along with the recording after this. But we're super lucky to have them here in North Dakota, and we hope to continue the work that we are doing together to grow the ecosystem in the ag industry.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks everyone. It was a pleasure to meet you. I've been learning more and more about the great work that we're doing on the ground. And I think one thing that I've heard from a lot of partners, including even Roche on the pharmaceutical side, is creating this like test pilot site, in other industries is a big interest of all of our partners. So, looking forward to learning more from the Grand Farms team. And I think there's a big interest in kind of replicating, something similar, maybe at a smaller scale in different industries. So it was very informative to hear, Andrew, your presentation and to learn more on how the Grand Farm operates, and looking forward to coming out there.
Yeah, we'll get your cowboy boots and hat, and we'll get you out on the farm.
I have the hat, but
there we go. Well, there you go. Great excuse to buy them.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Thank you, Sarah. Bye-bye.